What is it that's holding you back, keeping you from becoming everything that God has created you to be, living your purpose and reaching your destiny? Is it self doubt, feeling that you don't measure up to others? Perhaps it's fear or lack of resources, offenses and challenges, maybe even past or current circumstances. Well, I want you to know that these are pathologies, diseases of the mind that negatively impact how you think and perceive things that invade your everyday life. You can overcome these peculiarities and become conquerors, living in the purpose that God has for your life. The Bible in Philippians 4:13 teaches us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Hello, I'm your coach Dee Johnson, and I'm going to share with you on how you can overcome these pathologies and be all that God created you to be on today's Watering the Seed. Hey, 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 seeds, and welcome back to Watering the Seed, where purpose meets perspective and healing flows deep. Today, we're unpacking something many of us confuse without even realizing it, something that's tripped up even the most spiritually tuned in of us: assignment versus alignment. Now, hear me from a place of pure love because some of you listening today are assignments and you may not even know it. But after today, you'll have the wisdom to know the difference. Some people are placed in our lives as divine assignments. God sends us into their story to support their healing, awaken their growth, or serve as a mirror for their healing, awaken their growth, or serve as a mirror for their next level. And if you're one of the chosen, you already know what it feels like to carry that kind of weight with grace. But here's the problem. We often confuse the assignment with the alignment. We trick ourselves into believing they are truth, we were part of theirs. And what happens next? We start shrinking, silencing, twisting ourselves just to be accepted in atmospheres that were never built for our expansion. We give too much, carry too much, and stay too long, all because we thought our assignment was our divine. Now, some of y'all are exhausted. Some of us are exhausted. Not because you're out of order, but because you're out of alignment. You've mistaken your assignment, that person God sent you to help, to uplift, to plant a seed in, for someone you were supposed to build a life with. And now you're over shrinking yourself, stifling your voice, and negotiating your peace for someone who was never meant to be part of your permanent cycle, someone who was not destined to complete your journey with you. So let me break it down. So let me break it down. Assignment does not equal alignment, okay? Assignment does not equal alignment. You see, there are people God assigns to our lives, our journey, not to stay, but to shift. Our role in this shift is to model true reflection of what healing looks like. And that's it. That's the assignment. But when we confuse an assignment for alignment, here's what happens. We overstay in misaligned connections. We don't just walk into misaligned connections, we overstay. We sense the red flag, the energy's off, the conversation's dry, the purpose is pulling in opposite directions, and yet we stay. But why? But why? I'm glad you asked. Because sometimes our need for familiarity outweighs our desire for alignment. Sometimes we mistake comfort for covenant. And sometimes our unhealed parts whisper, don't leave, you might not find better, which is a lie out of the pits of hell. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. So, let's say you're in a friendship or a relationship, doing all the encouraging, all the check ins, all the support. But when you need them, did you hear that? Those were crickets. Or worse, they redirect the conversation back to themselves. But because y'all have history, but because y'all have history, when you may have went to school together, been friends like forever, or they were there during a rough patch that you were having. These reasons may cause you to stay. And then you convince yourself, they're going through something, or it's not that bad. Maybe I'm expecting too much. But deep down, your spirit keeps whispering, this no longer fits who I'm becoming. So now, real talk. Overstaying in misaligned connections cost you. They cost you dearly. They cost you your clarity because confusion becomes your norm. You find yourself always managing their chaos instead of pursuing your clarity. You start second guessing your voice or lose it altogether. It steals your energy because you keep pouring without a return. You feel more drained than developed. You lose capacity because their chaos fills space where your purpose should live. You feel guilty for wanting space or setting boundaries or even wanting growth. And the worst growth. And the worst part of it is it steals your peace. Your peace is constantly being interrupted to feed their needs. It robs you of clarity, energy, and capacity. Let's just have a watering the seed moment. Understand, you don't just owe it to yourself to heal, you owe it to yourself to move when it's time. Misalignment doesn't always equal or mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means they're the wrong current situation. And another thing that happens when we confuse an assignment for alignment is we expect loyalty from brokenness. Sometimes we form connections in survival mode, bonding over pain, shared trauma or unspoken wounds. And instead of healing, we build loyalty pacts in brokenness. Then we expect them and ourselves to hold to that loyalty as if it were spirit led, but it was really wound bonding, okay? Bond. We confuse trauma, familiarity with emotional safety, codependency with commitment, and fear of abandonment with faithfulness. So we say, they've been there for me through so much, even when the so much was mostly pain enabling. Oh, brother, here's an example. Let's say you had a friend you trauma bonded with during a hard season. Y'all vented together, cried together, maybe even engaged in some toxic behavior together, like gossip, you know. It felt close. So, fast forward to your healing season, and now they feel distant, jealous, or annoyed when you set boundaries or talk growth, but you still expect loyalty from them because we go way back. They were there when we go way back. They were there when I was at my lowest, except they were there because they related to your brokenness, not because they were committed to your wholeness. There's a difference. So let me drop this truth bomb on you. Here we go. Broken loyalty is rooted in fear. Broken loyalty is rooted in fear. Healed loyalty is rooted in truth. Healed loyalty is rooted in truth. Seeds, you can't expect someone to your growth if they were only ever loyal to your struggle. So this is a watering the seed reflection. We expect loyalty from brokenness, but real love shows up in truth, not trauma. The question isn't who stayed with you in the pit. Still claps for you when you rise out of it. Okay? And then lastly, what happens when we confuse an assignment for alignment? We end up tired, distracted, and disconnected from our own divine flow. When we stay in environments, relationships or mindsets that don't align with with who God is calling us to become, it doesn't just cost us peace, it drains our spiritual current. Your divine flow is your intuition, it's your clarity, your creative fire, and inner stillness, all moving in synchronization, all singing in synchronization. Okay? And when you overcommit to what you should have outgrown to someone God only called you to serve briefly, or you say yes when your soul said no, or you stay in circles where you're tolerated but not honored, or rescue people who refuse to rise, or even prioritize noise over your own nourishment. You lose touch with that inner alignment when you do these things, and when that happens, it can leave you feeling drained and fatigued no matter how much you rest, distracted, busy but unfulfilled, always reaching but rarely receiving, disconnected, disconnected from God, from purpose, from self. You don't just lose momentum, you lose the signal. And here's an example of that. So now imagine you're a creative man or woman of God with a calling on your life, but you're in a relationship that constantly undermines your worth. You keep trying to make it work, but it's one emotional tug of war after another. You feel stuck, but don't want to give up. So you press on. Meanwhile, your gifts are gathering dust. Your ideas half baked. Your energy shot. Shot. You're drained from carrying a dynamic that doesn't feed you. You're distracted from your purpose because you're focused on emotional damage control. You're disconnected from your divine flow because you're investing in what's not assigned to you. Spiritual cycle check, seeds. Let's do a spiritual cycle check, okay? Your divine flow can't flourish where you're constantly fighting for validation. Your creativity, it won't bloom in a battlefield. It can't. There's too much noise. And your clarity won't land where you're always rescuing what's not ready to rise. Here's another watering the seed reflection. You're not tired too much. You're tired because you're doing too much of what's not aligned. Okay, so let me give you an example of that. Let's say you're called to mentor someone, but instead of maintaining healthy boundaries, you get entangled. You try to fix them and then start resenting your growth. And suddenly you're dimming your own light to keep them comfortable. That wasn't the plan, boo. Was not the plan. You're the lighthouse, not their life raft. Don't let them sit on you while you raft. Don't let them sit on you while you hope that both of you will float and not drown. Because I assure you that both of you will go under. You can throw them a life raft. Throw them a life raft. But it's not your job to make them grab onto it. Okay? So, you ask, how do I know the difference, coach? Well, I'm so glad you asked because, yes, there are signs to let you know when you're in an assignment and not in alignment. Spiritual and emotional warning lights that say, this ain't your favor. This is not your forever. Okay? It's not your favor. It's not your forever. This is your mission stop. That's all it is. It's a mission stop. Number one, you feel like you're always teaching or rescuing, okay? You're not partners, you're parenting. You're not the friend, you're the parent. So when you find yourself always teaching or rescuing, understand that you are not the partner anymore. You're parenting this person, okay? You're not the friend, you're the parent. You're not the parent. You're not the partner, you're the parent. Number two, your voice is minimized. You can't express your truth without tension, getting yelled at, or being gaslit, given the silent treatment or ignored. You minimize your voice because you don't want to feel this way. You don't want to upset them because you don't want them to make to have you feel tension, or get you don't want to get yelled at, or don't want to be gaslit, it's toxic behavior. And then they reject growth. They reject your growth. When you elevate, they get irritated. When you level up, they shut down. When you give them suggestions to help them level up or achieve growth, they give you excuses why they can't do it, or just flat out refuse to do it, or anything for that matter. They flat out refuse to do anything, okay, that would cause them to grow or level up. See, some people just want to stay stuck and they want the okie doke. Staying stuck with them only gives them someone to hide their stuck behind, and that someone is you. Because if you are growing, that puts their stuck on display. If you are growing, that puts their stuck on display for everyone to see. That puts their stuck on display for everyone to see. So don't fall for it. And then number 4, you're drained, not watered. You're drained, not watered. You leave interactions feeling less than, not more. And then lastly, your peace or clarity, rest or joy is always on the line. Pay attention. You're on assignment, not an alignment. Having your peace disrupted knocks you out of alignment. So again, pay attention. Now let's talk about when to let go and how to know it's time. Seeds, here, you're not responsible for someone's decision to stay broken. You're responsible for obeying your assignment and then releasing it when the mission is complete. To know when your assignment in that situation has ended. So here are 3 questions for you to ask yourself. This assignment is ended. Okay? Am I still growing in this connection? Can I be fully myself here? Is God still using this connection to stretch or anchor me? Or am I stuck? And if you answer no to these, baby, am I stuck? And if you answer no to these, baby, it's time to move on. It's time to move. And let me say this with love. With love, you cannot align with what refuses to evolve. You can't do it. Can't do it. When your presence becomes noise to them, it's time to let go. When your light threatens their comfort, it's time to let go. And when you're fighting for connection but forfeiting your clarity, it's time to recognize it was an assignment. Release with wisdom and be careful not to commit to what was only meant to call you in for a moment, not for a lifetime. Okay? Now, assignment, boundaries, and alignment commitments. If you're unsure whether someone is an assignment or part of your alignment, remember this, and write it down. Write it down. Number 1, assignments feel temporary, like tutoring someone until they pass their test. And then number 2, alignment. Alignment feels like synchronized rhythm, that rhythm that flows without force. So honor your assignments without abandoning your alignment. To protect your alignment, be prayerful, not impulsive. Guard your peace like its purpose, because it is. Don't commit to what doesn't water you back. Water it, but don't commit to it. Stop letting guilt or the need to be responsible guilt trip you into staying after your soul has told you it's time to move or time to move on, time to make the change. Just go. Now, remember, you're not walking away from people, okay? You're not walking away from people. You're walking toward purpose, okay? You're not walking away from people. You're walking towards purpose. Listen, your calling doesn't require captivity. Calling doesn't require captivity, okay? Seeds, your calling doesn't require captivity. You were chosen to lift atmospheres, not sacrifice your sanity. You were called, you were chosen to lift to sanity. All right. So if you're feeling the nudge today, let this episode be your confirmation. It's an assignment, not your alignment. Don't marry what was meant to be a mission, okay? Let God handle the rest. So if this resonated, hit me up on IG at Watering the Seed or drop a message at WTSempower.com, our website. And y'all forward this message to your friend who keeps falling for projects instead of partners. We love them. We love them. We love them. We love them. But it's time for them to love themselves more. So until next time, stay rooted, stay rising, and know the difference between what's meant to grow you and what's trying to use or uproot you. I'm Coach D, your host on Watering the Seed. Until next time, I love you. There's nothing you can do